everyone, it is Sarah, your local NYC guide, and this is Bella, your local NYC. Hey everyone, it is Sarah, your local NYC guide, and this is Bella, your local NYC baby. She might be popping up a few times in this video. Now, I've lived in New York City for about 15 years. I went to college here, I had my first baby here, so today I wanted to cover everything you need to know when visiting New York. We're gonna cover 20 absolutely essential pieces of information that Bella and I came up with right here. What would you say? All right, we'll include that. That's a good point. Let's get started on point number 1. And by the way, before I get into this point, if you're visiting or you just want to learn more about New York, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like so that I know I should make more videos like this. Now, these tips are in no particular order out of importance, so stay tuned until the end. Do not get scammed while you're here. I know, you're probably like, wait, what? Am I gonna get scammed? Don't worry, you won't get scammed because you're watching this video. I got you covered. The reality is that if you go to Times Square, unfortunately, there are a lot of scams. You have fake Elmos dressed up that will jump in your picture and demand $5, sometimes $10, sometimes $20. You have fake monks that will give you a bracelet and pretend that it's a donation, but it's not really a donation. Do I get this?
Yes.
I get to keep this.
Yes, donation.
And it goes to the temple though?
Yes.
That was a scam if I'd ever seen a scam. Oh my God. He's trying to tell me that the temple in that picture was in Chinatown, New York. I did an entire video on this, by the way, where I pretended to be a tourist and went undercover in Times Square. It was nuts. The people were so willing to scam me. So please watch that video before coming so you do not get scammed while you're here. It's just something that is unfortunate in many large cities, and that is one of the negatives about New York. If this is your first time coming to New York City, I highly recommend you stay in Midtown. That's because you're going to be close to all of the major attractions, pretty much within walking distance. And most first-timers actually prefer that. However, if you've been to New York City before, then I don't recommend staying in Midtown. I recommend staying in Lower Manhattan or in Brooklyn or Queens. Personally, my biggest recommendation for anyone, stay in Long Island City, Queens. This is such a great hack. It's only a 10-minute commute to Midtown Manhattan, but you're gonna get significantly lower prices of hotels, which is a major bonus. So when's the best time of year to come here? Well, let me tell you, May, June, September, and October, and December are my 5 favorite months here in New York, and that is because 4 of those months have absolutely perfect weather. And then of course you have Christmas, which is just super magical because everything's covered in lights and it's absolutely beautiful. So if possible, I recommend coming during those times. So what about the weather? Well, it's pretty freezing in January and it's super hot in July, and then it's freezing again in December. So it's kind of like a curve like this. If this is like January to December, this is the heat, like this, okay? If you come in January, there's actually some bonuses coming the first quarter of the year, January to March, and that's because it is our least visited time of year, which means you will get the best prices on hotels and all the works. So if you are a budget traveler, aim during that time. However, make sure you dress warmly because it is really cold. Safety. Well, we have had a recent uptick in crime, in particularly on the subway. Besides that, it's relatively safe here in my opinion. I personally haven't seen or experienced anything that made me feel unsafe outside of the subway. If you'd like to avoid any sketchy potential business, then just don't take the subway. However, I will tell you, I take the subway on a daily basis, but I've never seen any of the things that have been highlighted on the news. That's my personal experience. I know some people have experienced other things, but overall, the general message is just be aware of your surroundings. I mean, this is something you should do no matter where you are, and especially in big cities. Don't walk around with your bag like unzipped behind you. Don't have your purse in the back of you. You know, people can grab those things. This is just basic street smarts, you know what I mean? I do not recommend riding the subway after 10 p.m. though. So what are the absolute things that you have to see? There are a few of them. I recommend the Brooklyn Bridge. You have to see a Broadway show. It's literally New York's biggest top attraction. I just put out a video all about how to plan your perfect day with Broadway, by the way, so use that. You should see Central Park. You should go to a local restaurant, which, by the way, most restaurants in New York City have a local vibe. Don't go to a chain restaurant. You're coming to New York City to experience New York City, so please don't go to Applebee's. Applebee's are everywhere. Go to a cool local spot like Los Tacos Numero Uno or Vinegar Hill House. You know, there's just so many amazing restaurants in the city. New York has one of the best food scenes in the entire world, so the odds are that no matter where you go, you're gonna have an amazing meal. I also recommend going to rooftop bars. The great things about rooftop bars in the city is the view is insane. It actually rivals observation decks, so if you want to skip out on an observation deck ticket of around $39 and instead just head to Overstory or the Skylark or Harriet's Rooftop, not 235th Avenue. That's literally the worst freaking rooftop bar ever. Every tourist ends up there. Don't go to 235th. There's a fabulous show in Bushwick, Brooklyn called Company XVI, and I am obsessed with them. It's like a burlesque nutcracker, like classy yet a little scandalous. It's something you gotta see, and it's a super local vibe, so that's a nice one. You gotta get pizza while you come here. I recommend Bleecker Street Pizza. We have the best pizza in the world. Same with bagels. Go to Tompkins Square Bagels. They have the best bagels in the city. And don't forget to go to brunch while you're in New York. We are known for our brunches, and you can find them at practically every single restaurant in the city on weekends. Make a reservation in advance to that because it is all the talk of the town. If you didn't go to brunch on the weekend, then who even are you? I mean, come on. So what can you skip? Well, I have a list here. First off, Statue of Liberty. Honestly, there's not really much going on there. Ellis Island's pretty cool, but there's not really much of the Statue of Liberty. It's better just to look at it from afar. Times Square, for anything other than a Broadway show, is not worth really going to. It's just so commercialized. You're just gonna find like Forever 21 and like all these very much commercialized experiences that you can get anywhere. So just go to Times Square when you're going to the Broadway show, and then, you know, you get the best of both worlds. Take your picture and peace out. That's what I say. Staten Island, unless you have a car, is not worth visiting. Staten Island is lovely with their parks. They have more parks than any other borough, but other than that, Staten Island's super spread out, so it'll be really challenging for you to get around. The Empire State Building observation deck. The problem with this is that the Empire State Building is such an iconic part of the New York City skyline, and you won't be able to see the Empire State Building when you're on the observation deck. It's a shame. They do kind of have a cool exhibit inside, but the other observation decks also have a cool exhibit inside, and they can see the Empire State Building, so unfortunately I'm gonna say pass to the Empire State Building. Sorry guys. I've found that almost every visitor wants to see the Wall Street Bowl. I'm telling you right now, it is a mess. There is like 5 people deep surrounding this Wall Street Bowl at all times. So if you really want to see it, either go first thing in the morning or go late at night, because other than that, it is swarmed with people. No locals ever want to see that. It's very interesting to me that tourists always want to see that. I think it's because it's featured in a lot of movies. I don't know. Tell me in the comments. Now, I found one of the best ways to explore a new place when I'm traveling is through a tour. I always like to do a tour with locals to get an idea of the surrounding area. Yes? And so does... Water. Oh, water, thank you. You drank all the water already? Bella, Louie, and I, we have tours of New York City. Check funkyexperiences.com to see what tours are happening now. Now, there is a lot to do here. Don't just stop at this video. I have almost 100 videos on things to do in New York City, from best bars, restaurant, what you need to know, what you don't need to know, where's tourist traps. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So make sure you watch my other videos to find out more. I also have videos on itineraries. So if you're having trouble planning your trip, you can actually just use one of my pre-made itineraries and make things just go way faster. Sick plug, right? How much does it cost to visit New York? Well, all I'm saying is saving before your trip to the city is very smart. Unfortunately, New York City is one of the most expensive cities in the world. Your Midtown hotel will be around $350 on average per night, and that is like the average normal price. It really only goes up from there, unfortunately. And if you have dreams to stay in like the plaza, like Home Alone 2, I get it, but that's gonna be $1,000 a night or more, unfortunately. It's really a shame. I really wish that it wasn't this expensive. The average drink is around $15 or more, and the average dish is between $20 to $30 at a restaurant, just so you're aware. That's like a pasta dish. I mean, if you're looking at like a steak, sometimes like $50. It's kind of crazy. So one way to save money also, by the way, is if you get like an Airbnb or a Sonder and you can actually cook in your property. That's a really good hack because it will save you so much money. I think me and my friends, when we look at our finances in New York, besides our rent, the highest expense is going out to restaurants here. It's crazy. Speaking of going out to restaurants, tipping is absolutely essential here. I realize in Europe and other countries tipping is not essential, but unfortunately, because the wait staff do not get paid very high wages. I think last time I checked, it's like $5 an hour or something like that. It's very low, so they heavily rely on tips to pay for their expensive apartments and living costs. And so when you don't tip, which the average tip should be 20%, it's kind of like a slap in the face to them that their service was bad. So just a heads up, it's not really like a suggestion, unfortunately, it's really a requirement, but that's the situation. So it's very common to see people filming movies, doing engagement photo shoots, wedding photo shoots, or filming social media content in New York City. To be honest with you, it's one of the most filmed locations on the planet. And if you're a content creator, a social media influencer, or someone that simply wants to create a video about your experience in New York City, then I highly recommend getting a Storyblocks account because it will save you tons of time when you visit here. Storyblocks offers copyright-free videos for you to use on your content. Often when I travel to a destination, I jam-pack my schedule and I don't have time to capture certain shots or I forget. And that's why I am so thankful for my Storyblocks membership. They have a massive royalty-free library of cinematic videos of New York City and other destinations around the world. And they also have Premiere Pro and After Effects templates, royalty-free music, stock images, and much more. Now, I recommend using their unlimited all access plan. It's what I use and it gives me over 1 million assets so I can create more and use my time to actually explore the destination I'm in. Now, if you're visiting New York City and are planning on creating content, you're going to want this. Their plans are flexible and affordable, so use my link storyblocks/SarahFunky to up your video game. It really helps me out too because they're a big supporter of this channel. With that, let's get back to the next tip. New York City is expensive for the most part, but it's not impossible to do this city on a budget. In fact, there are tons of budget restaurants in Chinatown, and if you're really looking for a budget way to stay in New York, you could do an Airbnb a bit further out of the city. Another great hack for saving money in the city is taking the subway versus taking an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi. You can get anywhere in New York City for $2.75, and if you look at a map from the edge of Staten Island to the top of the Bronx, that is about a 2.5-hour commute, and it will only cost you about $2.75. So make sure you pick up a Metro card if you are looking to do a budget vacation to New York City. So what do you wear? This is a question I get all the time. I've actually created a video, actually 2 videos on this topic, on what to wear when visiting New York. My most important piece of advice to you is if you are coming in winter, you are going to be outside way more than you expect. You are walking on city blocks all the time. You're probably not going to be in a car. And so it's very important to dress in layers. Watch my guide on what to wear in New York City because I have all the information on what the temperatures are depending on what time of year you visit and what you should wear per month. You also want to consider the shoes you wear. I love Rothy's. I think they're the most comfortable shoes for getting around the city. They're actually made with reused recycled bottles, so it's good for the environment too, which is really nice. I know New York City has a lot of beautiful things, but please don't stop in the middle of the sidewalk on a busy sidewalk to take a picture or check your phone for directions, there's often a lot of people behind you and it holds up traffic. I'm just telling you this because there's some people that get really annoyed and they'll like say rude things. New Yorkers are always on the go. We're like always fast paced and it takes a while to get anywhere, so that's part of it. Now, bringing on to my next point, New Yorkers are not mean. I know this may sound strange because all the movies portray us as being mean, but most of those movies that portray us as being rude are from the 70s or the 80s, and that is when New York was pretty tough to live in. Oh, thank you. New Yorkers are not mean, we're just efficient. So instead of having an entire conversation about like, how's your day when you're ordering Starbucks or whatever, it's just like, what do you want? Because there's 300 customers behind you, you know? Like, we definitely would be fine having a convo if it wasn't so crowded everywhere. That's all. We're not mean. New York City is more than just Manhattan, so explore outside of Manhattan. There are 4 other boroughs besides Manhattan that are totally worth visiting. I have guides to all of them on my channel, so you can check those out once you subscribe. You don't need to exchange your money in New York because no one really takes cash. I mean, they'll take it if you have it, but you don't really need cash at all here. Everyone takes credit card. So if you have a credit card that has no foreign transaction fees and you're visiting from outside of the US, that's what you should use because no one really uses cash. One time someone gave me a $50 bill and it just stayed in my wallet for months until I stepped out of New York City and then I used it. So just a heads up on that. A lot of people use Apple Pay, Google Pay, credit card, you know, whatever works for you. Let's talk about bathrooms. You didn't see that one coming, huh? That's because bathrooms here are hard to find. So my biggest recommendation here is if you're out exploring, use the bathroom at whatever location you're at before you leave. So if you're at a museum, use the bathroom. If you're at a restaurant, use the bathroom. If you're out exploring for a while, there's definitely ways that you can use bathrooms. There's an app called Sit or Squat, which tells you which bathrooms are worthy of sitting and which are not worthy of going to, if you know what I mean. But my personal hack is I use the hotel or restaurant hack. Essentially, you just walk in the door with confidence and head to where you think the bathroom will be. And then if you get lost, you just act like you're like staying there or you're a customer and just checking and just using the bathroom. It works like a charm. How do you get around? Well, if you're on a budget, I recommend using the subway. You can go anywhere on the subway for only $2.75, and now they just have a tap and pay system, so you don't even need to get a Metro card. As long as your credit card or your phone has Apple Pay or Google Pay, or your credit card, you can just tap it. A lot of the time, most credit cards can do this without even having to set it up, so that makes it super easy. However, if you'd prefer to get around by car, then you can take a taxi, an Uber, or a Lyft. Although I will tell you that's going to be quite pricey. For example, if you're coming from the airport to Manhattan, on average, the price you're going to pay is like $65 to $75 to get to Manhattan. There is extremely limited accessibility in New York. I only really realized this once I started giving tours of people that had accessibility issues. Only 25% of the subway is accessible, so if you have a stroller or a wheelchair or have mobility issues, it is really challenging to use it. On top of that, you may have some challenges finding accessible taxis or cars with car seats, but just a heads up for you to be prepared for that. And with that, I hope these tips helped you learn more about what you need to know when visiting New York City. Make sure that you subscribe, hit that like button, and watch my other videos to learn even more about the Big Apple. I'll see you next time. Bye. God. Bella, we just need one opener. Hey everyone, it is Sarah, your local NYC guide, and this is Bella, your local NYC. So yeah, so what? Are you happy now? You're happy? She's happy now that she has water. Okay, good.